So does that mean we're going?
We're
in?
going.
This is it? We're
this
in?
is it.
All right, podcasting just starts.
Yeah,
There it
podcast
is.
just starts.
Do we have a name for this thing?
I was tentatively thinking about calling it the Pop Fiction Office Hour.
Oh, that's not
'Cause
bad.
we're just kind of hanging out, talking about random stuff. It's going to be an hour. Doesn't have to be any more complicated than that.
Honestly, I was going with pop podcast, but that
Pop
sounds a lot better
podcast.
than yours.
Popcast. That
The
might
Popcast,
that might
actually.
actually be trademarked already, though.
All right.
Any good idea has already been talked about by somebody. Okay, so we're just going to get into it. First order of business.
Talking about Indiana Jones 5.
Indiana Jones 5.
The fifth one. That we got Indy as an old man again.
Old man.
Yeah, this is different from the last one. So.
Indy 4, he was 60. Indy 5, he's 80.
What difference, like fighting wise, is there between 60 and 80?
Well, my parents are now slightly over the age of 60.
Okay.
So, I can see how firm and infirm they are comparatively. They're not 80 yet. And, I've had grandparents that were 80, and I worry about them being able to just go to the bathroom correctly. You know what I mean?
But getting in a fist fight, you're not even thinking about that.
Osteoporosis is a bitch, man.
That's fair. Well, I don't know. All right. What about Indy? What's new with them?
Well, so despite potential misgivings, Indiana Jones has always been something that I'm excited by.
Yeah, same.
But I guess I got to go in first on the digital de-aging.
Yeah, that's something. We'll see.
This is a big sword of Damocles, right? It goes either really well sometimes
Yeah.
or it goes really poorly sometimes. And I don't know what studio is working on it. I don't know how proficient they are. But we've seen like Mandalorian do it. We've seen some, amateur YouTubers do it. And sometimes a lot of money does a good job and sometimes very little money does a good job.
Yeah, but also like the problem with it is it almost never holds up. Like the thing
That's
about
true.
the Indiana Jones movies is you can watch them today and they still hold up. They still
That's
feel
true.
great.
It's that practical effects thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it's tangible, it works. It just works. When it's CG and a tennis ball you're looking at, it's a little dubious. And when
Yeah.
someone's putting a mesh on your face and then tweaking all your vertexes in some kind of Maya program, that's weird.
And it seems like for this movie, they're going to have like a chunk where it's going to be like young Indy and everything. And you were saying like they're going to be using like old footage
That's
from the
what I
past
heard.
movies?
I heard they're using archival stuff that hit the cutting room floor from 1 and 3.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
it features Nazi stuff, and 1 and 3 both had sort of a Nazi element type
Yeah.
of thing. But now we're hearing a lot more about digital de-aging, and so I'm wondering where the threshold is. How much of it is one, and how much of it is the other?
Okay. Another thing to talk about is that Rotten Tomato score. Now, I'm not a huge Rotten Tomato fan. I don't think it's a great system, but something to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I know Guardians 3 when it first came out, people were like, "Oh yeah, the Rotten Tomato score isn't fantastic."
Sure.
But this one's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Last time I checked, it was 53%, which is
Okay.
the lowest for any Indiana Jones movie,
Which
including
says-
Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull.
Which shocking. Like, how much worse can it be from Crystal Skull? Which I mean, I personally think.
I
okay.
also liked Crystal Skull.
I think it's fine. It's not amazing.
No,
but it's
of course.
fine.
But it's Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
And he's only 60 in that one.
Maybe it's just because he's 80 and it's like he can't do much. So
I mean, they put a scene in the trailer when he has a whip and he's trying to lion tame a bunch of people around a table, and you're thinking to yourself, how does his arm have that range of motion?
yeah,
Is
honestly.
he breaking his wrist right
well,
now?
that's the CG coming in.
There you go. Yeah, CG whip. Oh,
I don't
beyond
know.
the pale.
But are you going to see it like opening night and all
I
that?
will probably see it. I'm an Indiana Jones aficionado.
Oh, okay.
I like all of his movies. I even watched some, but not all, of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. There's apparently way more episodes than I thought there were.
Oh, sure.
But Indiana Jones has been one of those films where it pushed a genre to the forefront.
Mhm.
It revitalized 1920s, 30s storytelling of like Pulp Fiction, Doc Savage, the Spider, the Shadow,
Yeah.
these characters that are sort of two-fisted heroes that only have their wits and their gumption and their guts to try and solve a problem. And
Mhm.
Jones was like that. He was very cool. He made there was lots of movies that came out of him, Romancing the Stone and the Mummy series. The version of the Mummy that we got
Right.
later with Frasier was
Yeah.
sort of informed by Indiana Jones, because the original Mummy is a much more gothic horror, guys in a tomb in Egypt and they all die horrifically really fast kind of a thing, with the mummy being wrapped in bandages.
Okay, and then they
Now we
cheesed it
got the
up.
Rick O'Connell, two guns in the desert, camels, Bedouin warriors and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Mhm.
But I think that came out of our love of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, you're referring to the Brendan Fraser, not the Tom Cruise one?
Not the Tom Cruise one.
What?
Oh, the Tom Cruise one.
I don't know why we're not talking about that one.
That's a bitter pill you just made me swallow right there.
Okay. Well, what do you think will come next for Indy 5? Like after this, like do you think Disney's going to just hang Disney or like Indy's hat on the shelf and be like, all right, that's it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know that Harrison Ford has said he's done.
He doesn't have much of a choice.
5. That's true. That's true. I'm surprised he didn't die.
Well,
on this movie.
I don't think like, hey, Harrison, up for a 6? He's like, yeah, I'll be there.
I'm 91 years old. I'll be there for Indiana Jones.
I mean,
at that point, he'll be a talking head in like a floating jar, telling Shia LaBeouf to do something.
They would just have to go day by day on that one. Be like, all right, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Yeah, 8 a.m.
In Indiana Jones 4. They tried to pass the mantle off to Shia LaBeouf's character, Ox Buford or whatever his name was, who at that time was in his, I think, supposed to be mid-20s or something like that. Now that it's 20 years later, roughly, and Indiana Jones is retiring in the film, and it's 80-year-old Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
Shia's character should be like 40. If they're going to do another film at some point, is it going to be set in the modern era, and we're going to get John Hamm to be 55-year-old? The son of Indiana Jones.
Oh, interesting. That would be kind of cool.
It could be interesting. It could be an interesting concept, but Harrison wouldn't be in it. Not really.
No, probably not. Which is kind of like the selling point at this point. Because, everyone was not for Shia LaBeouf coming as young Indiana Jones, which is fair.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think Shia's life is kind of caught up with him, so I don't think that's going to happen either.
True. He doesn't look anything like Harrison Ford. Not that he ever did.
No. Plus, he doesn't have the same spunk. He just had the same, like, twitchiness.
I don't know.
If anything.
I will always have a soft spot in my heart for Indiana Jones. I just had a vocal tremor there because I needed to burp. But
no, it wasn't emotional? You weren't getting emotion for Indiana Jones?
It's not quite that level of love.
Oh, no?
No. I don't own a whip or a hat. That's a lie. I own a hat.
I own a whip.
But I think this is probably the end. And as a swan song, as an encore, do I think it's going to be good? I hold out hope that it is. Last Crusade was a beautiful ending to the series.
It literally was like picture perfect.
If they stopped making them. Yeah. And I don't know. It's sometimes you don't want to be the guy that hits the horse too many times.
Well, it's okay because the last guy already did.
That's true.
So
that's true.
That's where it's like, okay, you can't ruin it again, but apparently you might be able to, which is weird because it's James Mangold, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, James Mangold.
Which is he's usually pretty good on these things.
It's got a star-studded cast too. I know that isn't always a thing, but it's got a lot of people in it.
It has
Mads Mikkelsen, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas. Like, there's a lot of people in it. Sala's back too. John Rhys Davies is Sala.
Okay.
How do you feel about that casting?
Sure.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to place any bets on if Short Round's going to make an appearance?
Oh, well,
it's kind of, I mean,
if they shot something for him after the whole, Oscar buzz and everything, because I think the movie
was a fast turnaround.
I think the movie was done.
Yeah, it was
by
in
that
post
point.
at that point.
Then it would be if nothing else, it'd be an after credits gaff or goof kind of.
I'd be okay with it.
I would be okay with it too because it would be nice to see him.
Yeah, Short Round being back.
Yeah,
but do you think it will happen?
I don't know.
Beyond hope.
I don't know.
I personally would say it's probably not going to happen. I think it's a little too late for the Oscar
you look
thing.
At the Avengers 1, they turned around that shawarma scene while they were at the original red carpet premiere.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's impressive. I didn't know that.
After doing test footage for that film, they realized they wanted to pay off the shawarma joke from the bridge scene when he gets the helmet ripped off, but they didn't have that scene yet. This is according to legend, right? Who knows if this actually is true to the strictest sense, but according to the legend anyway. They didn't pay off the joke well enough, so after they did the original red carpet premiere, which is not when the movie is open to everybody, right? The red carpet is still a week or more ahead of the actual film. They shot that film, that brief insert, because they had the costumes still for the characters.
So they threw wow.
And Chris Evans had a beard.
Yeah.
So that's why his hand is covering his face.
Is it?
So you can't see his face. Which is a better way of doing it than trying to digitally get rid of somebody's mustache. Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I honestly didn't know this.
So you never know. What I'm saying is ultimately is they could theoretically turn something around with Ke Huy Quan really fast if they really wanted to. I don't know though. That's a lot. It's a big ask.
That would be really cool, but yeah, I at this point they could if they really wanted to, but I don't know if it's going to save the film by any means.
Lore-wise, fiction-wise, Dial of Destiny. I've heard overtures of time travel. I've heard overtures of other things, which is probably one of the reasons why they're using old footage of him and digital de-aging. Is that they're doing concurrent storylines or some kind of like crossing of the streams,
which sounds kind of cool.
That's pretty interesting.
But at the same time, people weren't for Aliens, which I don't know. That always like kind of like stirred me the wrong way because they're like, oh yeah, like Aliens, that's too far for Indiana Jones, but like literal god magic from time Raiders is totally okay.
Yeah.
And then
so the occult, I think for some reason gets a pass when space and sci-fi stuff sort of doesn't. But we were talking about this off air. There's this idea that Indiana Jones is sort of indicative of the time period that he's in, right? During the 40s, during World War II, Hitler was apparently obsessed, according to what people understand.
That guy was a big deal
with the occult.
Yeah.
And so, chasing all that stuff and writing that into your story seemed like a big deal. And then you fast forward during the Cold War, when Indiana Jones 4 comes out, space race, atomic age, people were motivated by, Soviets in space a lot more. And so they made a film indicative of that kind of thing. There was an atomic bomb in it. There was space in it. The Soviets were the bad guys in that film.
That's actually a really good point.
Era that it's from.
Especially like when they go into the town and you have like the jocks versus the greasers, and like you even go into the library. All of it feels very much of that time. Yeah. So I think they capture it well. Yeah, that's a good point.
So if this movie is literally 20 years later, which is a sort of a guess, that would put it in the 70s? Question mark.
Interesting.
Late 70s, early 80s, maybe early 70s. Who sort of knows very specifically in the time scale. So I wonder what they're going to do to hit that. Nazis certainly aren't part of that era.
No,
that was still pretty firmly Cold War type stuff. Yeah. So I don't know how the espionage, Twilight Struggle type angle is going to play, but
I guess we'll see.
We'll see.
It's in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from this.
Oh, really? Wow, that fast?
Yeah,
man, time's flying.
Pretty soon. Well, let's change gears.
Yeah.
Shift gears
into
higher.
See what you're doing there.
Pedal to the metal to Fast 10.
Fast X.
Oh man. I wonder, I'm really happy they pulled out the X for this one too. The last one I knew that did this was Jason X.
Oh man, so Jason X.
For Fast and Furious to be like, all right, let's throw it back to Jason. Let's do it. Friday the 13th.
Jason X. How to give out-of-work sci-fi actors a low-budget movie that actually had a high-budget character in it.
Yeah.
Although by that time, Jason probably wasn't a very high-budget character.
No, but these guys are for some reason.
Yes, all of them.
They're bringing back
55 characters in the Fast
franchise. They're bringing 2 more back.
Boy.
We're spoiling the film. The one, I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
But I looked up all the spoilers because I didn't see Fast 9 because of that. Fast 8 was when I was done. Like, I couldn't do anymore.
Fate of the Furious, you mean?
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
Okay. Fate of the Furious. Yeah. Don't know whose fate was being held in that one. Because nobody's. If anything, a person got brought back to life in that one. So.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know. I just don't know.
Nobody ever really dies in the Fast and the Furious.
No.
If you join the family anyway, you become immortal? Question mark.
I don't know. Did The Rock join the family? I guess he was part of one of the dinners. So
one of the dinners.
I guess that's what that's all you have to do.
That's the badge of honor. You get to go to Toretto's house for dinner, and then all of a sudden you gain your immortality by drinking from the Toretto cup of immortality.
It's just a cup of nos.
Yeah, there you go. Oh man, monster.
Yeah. Oh man.
The Rock. That's an interesting thing to bring up.
So I thought it was really interesting though, because in the movie, the end of the movie, like they get saved by someone, and they're like, "Oh, who's the someone they saved?" And then Gal Gadot shows up, and then it's her character. Don't know her name. Giselle.
Giselle, yes, Giselle.
Is that it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, her. She shows up and she's like, "Oh, I'm here to save the day," and all that stuff. And so I thought. So
she's actually not dead either.
No. She's actually not dead either.
This isn't a flashback or a dream
she's
sequence
alive.
Of Hans.
But no, Hans doesn't know either.
Oh my god!
Because they had to have that reconnection too. Because they also established that, in the movie, as a throwaway joke, they're like, "Oh, Hans, you're single." He's like, "Yeah, I'm single. My girlfriend died." So he is single. Just to have that reconnection.
Yeah, well, they got to leave the pathway open, right? They can't complicate it by actually having emotional weight. Stakes, pathos. He can't have found new love, and then when she comes back in the picture, it's all of a sudden a love triangle. He needs to become emotionally vulnerable and whatever's going on. And it can't be that movie. He's got to be waiting, dying for her.
What if he
holding
does
a
die?
picture, dying again before he meets her again.
Yeah.
That would be poetic justice.
That would be funny. Oh yeah, sorry, Hans already died, but he died again, so this one's real this time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know. That'd be fun.
You only get 9 lives amongst the whole family.
Yeah.
Once they're like one big cat. Once they're all used, they all die at the same time.
I mean, they're getting close to it. So
Yeah.
by the time the 12th movie hits, yeah, that cat's looking.
Oh yeah, that's right. Fast X is the first of a trilogy that marks the final movie.
Working up to that triple X for Fast XXX.
Oh my god!
And then it's gonna clash into the XXX
and Triple X.
Yeah, Triple X franchise. Boom! You see, it's all connected.
When we see Donnie Yen's character show up from Triple X, the sequel, or Ice Cube from Triple X, the second one, or Sam Jackson from any of the Triple X's that I remember, which I'm sure there's a billion of them now.
All 3 of those actors I could see in those movies.
Yeah. Well, they got room for them. The budget apparently for these films is astronomical.
And yeah. So like the thing that really threw me off about this one is that Gal Gadot was like teased at the end of the movie. When the movie's still going, she's like, "Oh, she's back," which is supposed to be a big reveal and all that.
Sure.
But then in the post-credit scene, like Gal Gadot's character was dead, but then The Rock's character was alive. He just wasn't in it. But in the post-credit scene, like he is the person to be like, "Oh, I'm back and I'm gonna be in the next one," because he like takes his mask off and it's him, and he has his like whole goatee now and it's all gray. So cool, that's back. But I thought it would have been more of like a wow moment if they switched the characters. If like The Rock was there at the end and then Gal Gadot and her character was
sure,
dead.
because you expect The Rock because he had his whole Hobbs and Shaw thing.
There's no reason he shouldn't be in there unless you're like in on the drama of Vin Diesel.
There
and
you
The
go.
Rock.
That's probably why.
Well, it is, but like as a moviegoer, why should you know about their beef between them to be like, "Oh, see, that's you get it."
People love gossip, man.
I
They
guess.
love that drama.
It's so weird.
Having 2 bald, large,
superpowered men.
superpowered men at this point.
I mean, they both are. Like, both of them can lead a franchise, have shown that they can, but they're still so petty against each other that they can't. So much that, like,
not being knocked down type stuff.
I mean, Dom had his own storyline and everyone else had, like, group storylines. He was the only one that had his own.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
If they have how many ever characters they have in this movie is now 12, 14 characters, whatever
Yeah,
it
cheaper
is,
by
right?
the dozen.
The movie is 2 hours and 21 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next 2 are presumably going to be somewhere around that time
likely,
period.
yeah.
At least 2 hours, at least.
Well, that last one has to break 3 hours at least.
Well, okay, so we'll call it 7. We'll call it 7 hours for the entire ending of the series.
Okay.
And with 12, 14 characters, especially they bring back even more or introduce more or whatever, how many of them get screen time or character development of any kind?
Well, it's true. I don't know. I mean, I guess like Dom essentially has to be like the person with the most, and then like Jason Momoa's character, and everyone else, I don't know. They're just doing their shtick. I feel like at this point, everyone's already like filled out their like thing that they can do with their character, so all they can do left is just die.
Also, is Jason Momoa, as much as we love him and we love him in this Office, is he the big bad of the entire Fast?
Oh, is he
ending?
like I've been the author of your pain kind of situation?
Maybe, but even if that's not true, and it's Cypher or whatever her name is, played by Charlize Theron. Even if he's not the instrument of pain for the entire series, is he going to be the villain that closes it out?
He might be, unless probably not, because he's cool. So like
he's cool.
They'll have to do a switch with them and be like, actually,
he'll do a heel face turn and become a good guy at the end.
Well, yeah, be like, hey, you want to go hang out with Jason Statham over there?
Drink from the Toretto cup.
I mean, kind of, because that's what they did with Jason Statham. And they're like, what about that hospital that you pretty much just blew up and killed everyone? They're like, don't worry about it.
Well, like Deckard Shaw is an assassin bad guy, tried to kill Han. They're cool with him.
They're cool with him now.
His brother, played by Luke Evans,
also cool.
Also cool. Saved Dom's kid or whatever in one of those movies.
So there was only like Charlize Theron. I think she's actually a good person now. I haven't seen the movie, so this is really tough. But like, if I'm saying this,
speculating on it is more fun than watching it, though.
Probably. But if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I'm speculating. Like, I honestly, truly think that's probably what happened. I think Charlize Theron is a good character now. They switched her because I know they were hanging out with Lenny. This is all from like a spoilers video I watched.
Sure, okay.
And so she was hanging out with Lenny, but they were like fighting. But like after they fight, usually they can be like, okay, but like we can be friends now.
Sure. The Rocky syndrome.
Where I think that's happened. That's what happened.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
And we all know he's cool, but he's good in the movie.
Apparently, yeah. I guess he's playing just like a Joker of some sense. Everyone
Jason
keeps
Momoa
saying,
Joker.
yeah, he's
Interesting.
just being like a jokester, and just every time he's like, "Oh, you thought that was my plan? This is my plan," and does this like every time.
So clearly he's the character they spent all the extra money hiring the comedians to come in and punch up the script for, because they certainly don't give any levity to Dom's dialogue
No,
or anybody else, but they want to make the villain interesting. So they, Patton Oswalt or any of the other comedians that do punch ups for scripts, they probably hired them to make him funny.
I guess they did have a gag in the movie where like Ludacris's character and then his buddy, I forget, I don't know these people's names, I can't remember. Those two characters, they're up into shenanigans. Long story short, they end up in a shipping container with a bunch of cologne.
Shipping container.
And so like they end up in a shipping container and they have to be shipped, essentially, be like snuck out. And then when they get out of it, they're like, whoo, oh man, that was too much cologne. Which, like, when I heard this, it made me wonder, like, did they break the bottles of cologne? Because they're just bottles of cologne being shipped, right?
You'd assume that they're packed in such a way that they wouldn't just naturally break.
Well, yeah, so it shouldn't be like super smelly, but I think that's what the joke was. It was like, oh, too much cologne. Like, that's just, it gives me a headache. But it's like, not if you like, did they just have a bunch of broken bottles of cologne in there?
That's 10% of a joke. And they put it in the movie. That's 10% of a good joke.
Because you have to think about it. If you don't think about it, then it's funny. But if you think about it even a little bit, then it's like, wait, that's not funny at all.
That's that moment between moments. They just want you to like keep your pulse at a certain amount and your brain activity a certain amount to go to the next set piece of the film.
Which, unless that's how cologne companies do it, and they're just like, well, whatever bottles get there, that's where
percentage of them are sacrificed on the way with their final destination.
It's okay because we can usually smell to track them down. So. I don't know.
They hire dogs to track all their cologne trucks down.
Interesting.
So, Michelle Rodriguez, Vin Diesel, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Jason Momoa, Jason Statham, to say the nothing of John Cena, Helen Mirren, Alan Ritchson, Charlize Theron. Any one of these people would be a headliner in their own film.
Oh yeah, at this point,
do you remember The Expendables?
Yeah.
Is Fast and the Furious now becoming like the car version of The Expendables, but instead of old out of work action movie actors from the 80s, it's now like ostensibly pretty good actors from like the mid to early 2000s and the late 2010s
to whatever,
that are just still all coming in for a couple $1 million to make this like crazy. It's a crazy movie. It's crazy.
It's a good fan club to be a part of,
I guess.
Because like once you're in it, you're like, all right, everybody, like, yeah, these movies suck, but look how much we get paid, and we can just keep doing these. So if we just keep coming back.
Also, sadly, they don't actually suck that bad.
Nah, well,
like they started out pretty great.
I don't know. They started out pretty mediocre.
Okay, that's a fair statement. They started out pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
What I mean is they weren't like immediately awful from the jump.
Too Fast, Too Furious?
I don't remember all the early ones. There's a lot of them now. We consume a lot of pop culture here, so it starts to blend together.
Look, to say like they started out like with the first one, which was like, okay, that's fine. Too Fast, Too Furious, which to a lot of people, real low point in that one, unless you've had a few good drinks in you, or
this is the first sequel.
Yeah, unless you're sipping on that NOS real well, like that Too Fast is not great. And then Tokyo Drift, my personal least favorite out of all of them.
Least favorite, okay.
Yeah, because it's none of the main characters except for one, who dies. And then gets brought back in the fifth one, not explained, and then gets killed off again in the sixth.
But it's the actual death that you saw in the third, because the third takes place in the future from 1 through 4.
Are you confused yet?
Well, it is confusing. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, Fast X.
Yeah.
Do you have any intention to see it at all in theaters, or are you gonna wait till streaming? Or are you gonna watch it at
all?
I
might wait longer than that.
Oh,
I might wait
just a burning indictment.
I don't know, Fast 11. I might wait till that and then just binge 9 and 10, and then be like, all right, let's try to get to 11.
Wow.
Or maybe I might wait longer and then just be like, all right, let's
just
build
watch all the last 4 at the same time.
I mean, I think I can skip at least 2 of them by that point.
2026.
You really could just skip through 5 to 10, and you technically would be fine. Because everyone that died isn't dead anymore.
Yeah, they're just going to be around.
Plus,
I imagine they're going to say a lot of the same things, paint by numbers style.
Actually, that's not true. There's one actor that won't be in it, which they Who, if they bring him back, that would be crazy. Paul Walker.
Oh, I'm waiting for it. So they teased at the end of Fast 9 ?
Oh, no way.
His car shows up at the Toretto house because he too drank from the Toretto cup of immortality.
Oh, that's true.
The character did anyway.
Yeah, because the character's not dead.
The character's not dead. They just keep missing him, like two ships passing in the night.
That's honestly
he's never
so
showing up.
funny. Like if it's every like movie is like, oh, where's Brian? Oh, Brian's
He's 5 minutes late.
Sorry, he's getting groceries right now. Oh, it's Brian. Oh, he just took a nap. He just
Brian couldn't go
missed
to
him.
space. Brian couldn't, fire harpoon anchors at other people's cars. Brian couldn't blow up the
Brian
Vatican.
can't swim. That's why he can't do it.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. He's
like
busy.
every single one, he's like, oh, Brian can't swim. He can't be in the water one.
He's a stay-at-home dad now. He's watching their kids.
Yeah.
And Mia's now going to hang out with the Toretto siblings.
So that's like the last person they could bring back, which would be insane. But in a weird, I'd be there for it kind of way.
So I want to change subjects, but
Yeah.
here's my segue. I think the movie was written poorly.
Oh, were we saying?
Because of the no, not because of the writer's strike. Obviously, that's not true. But I want to talk about the writer's strike now.
Do you think they had writers for this movie? You really do?
I can only hope.
Okay. Well, they're supposed to.
I don't want Vin Diesel to have drawn it in crayon in his, trailer.
I figure it's just as the day went. But maybe
But
James Wan took it with him.
the writer's strike,
Yeah.
as we both know, is going on. And at the time of our recording of this, doesn't seem to be going well.
No, it's not stopping by any means.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know. To me, I think it could be like a good thing in some ways where it can just give like studios and like writers just time to actually develop these scripts a little bit more, get them a little bit more fleshed out until they get this all over with. Because they have to get it over with because of what we were talking about previous with the actor strike coming very soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Potential actor strike.
In June, the performers' contract ends.
Yeah.
And so if they don't come to terms, they'll also be on strike at the same time.
So are they gonna? Are you aware? Do they have similar demands as the writers? Kind of.
I don't know. Performers. I'm not up on my guild idiosyncratic relationship stuff, but the performers seem to generally have a better relationship with the producer and money type organizations.
You don't say. Yeah, I mean that checks out. I mean the performer,
they have been on strike before.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I don't remember the last date of a performers guild strike.
Gotcha.
Compared to a writer's strike. We've had writer's strikes multiple times.
Pretty consistent, yeah.
If they do go on strike at the same time, though, that will be a big like off switch for Hollywood.
Yeah, like actual off switch. Because right now they're still trying to be like, yeah,
we can limp along. We've got some stuff in the vault. We can pull it out. We can make sequels to things and just
we'll threaten writers to come do their jobs
get
and then
ChatGPT to write scripts for us.
Also that.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah, that's what I'm worried about though. Is the writers' strike right now we're burgeoning into a number of different things that could change the landscape for stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different streaming platforms now, and Tom Hanks was very public about his opinion about some of these contracts they have where they stipulate that you can't write for different streaming services at the same time.
Oh.
So if you sell a show to Peacock, which I think is now Paramount or whatever it is, you can't then sell a show to Netflix and also sell a show to HBO Max or whatever. That may not be true for every writer.
Tom Hanks said this?
Tom Hanks is upset by this concept.
Dad Hollywood. You upset Dad Hollywood on this one.
Yeah, don't do that.
No.
So they want to change the landscape of how their contract works with the new streaming sort of concept. In order to make your money, if they're not going to pay you residuals to the degree that you need to be paid residuals, so they're not going to give you opportunities in script writing and pay you actual wages that are theoretically appropriate for what it is you're doing.
Paying you in
spec
U.S.
script
currency.
Or, not pesos. Then
High
they
fives.
should at least make it so that they high fives.
High fives all around, guys.
Yeah,
good job on that script.
Good script.
Hey, made us $1 billion. Hey.
Fast 12. They should at least allow them to work as much as they can or want what they want to. They can't make these exclusionistic concepts in their contracts. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So that's one thing they're picketing, and it's having a major effect. I mean, it won't for some cases, as we mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will cross picket lines. However you feel about that is up to your personal opinion. But
Sure.
Some people will cross because they just can't financially afford to not do that.
Yeah.
Some people won't. Hopefully, most won't. I'm of the opinion that if you're going to strike and be part of a union and you're not going to be paid well, then you should
You should probably do it. I
should
mean,
probably do it.
instead of like, okay, I guess I'll lean in and go work for the job that I don't get paid well to do in the first
Yeah,
place.
you're just eroding the credibility of the strike outside of that, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, especially if it's like the sense of like, oh, I'm on strike to get paid more money, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna lean in just so you can continue pay me less, and
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to settle for less money.
yeah,
And if enough people do that, then they deflate the ability for the strike and the union to have any.
but that doesn't
bargaining
seem to be
power.
happening though, right?
No, not right now. The
Yeah.
thing that I think we're all afraid of is that the writers' strike will go on for a long enough period of time that they'll get starved out.
That is what they're
And
trying
that
to do.
will be unfortunate and very punitive by the sort of producer executive type
Yeah.
level. And also we're kind of afraid that they might have seen this coming because they know, just as we do and just as the writers do, when their contracts are coming due.
Oh yeah,
And Hollywood is notorious for buying spec scripts and buying and archiving material and just having stuff ready in the back pocket to just greenlight a film
Stuff like this.
instantaneously. And if they were shrewd about it, which hopefully they're not this Machiavellian, but if they were shrewd about it, they might have stockpiled a lot of scripts.
yeah, just for moments like these.
Yeah.
But you can't. I mean, that's again like where we're going back to. Like, you can have that, and it can get you by for a little bit.
Yeah.
But not if you don't have any actors.
Yes.
So
in June, if there's a consensus, we could reach some solidarity, and it is affecting some things, as we mentioned earlier. So
Yeah.
the Writers Guild strike is affecting some of the streaming shows that are happening that they didn't have an opportunity to pre-write. So like Mandalorian season 4, Last of Us season 2. A number of things are just not progressing right now,
which
without
is a bummer
scripts.
because like right now it's not a big deal because it's like, oh, it doesn't feel like anything's changed.
Yeah.
But like next year, 2 years from now, it's gonna
Yeah.
be like these things are taking a while to
There
come
could
out.
be a ripple that goes on for a while.
And it's because of these. So like if we're talking about which bringing to like Marvel, for example, like movies and shows that are being pushed back for that. Marvel's a little bit in hot water at the moment with some actors. So maybe this is what I'm talking about, where it could be good press for them so they can actually like let all that dust settle so they can figure out what they're wanting to do differently.
Yeah.
If they are still wanting to. If you want to dive into that rabbit hole a little bit.
Well, I mean, go for it.
I mean, I don't know. I know the Jonathan Majors thing is everybody's just waiting to see what happens with that. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on the side of like, oh yeah, bad person, X amount, everything. I think everyone's just let's hold off.
Yeah, if the aspersions are true, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's an oopsie doopsie.
But we've also seen other actors, arguably of a similar weight scale to Jonathan Majors.
Oh yeah,
we're talking Ezra Millers and other types who get, knuckled with something pretty bad, and the studio doesn't drop them, doesn't back, like still backs them. Ezra Miller's Flash is still coming out.
Yeah,
presumably he still has some kind of relationship with Warner Brothers. Whether or not that extends into the James Gunn era, we don't know yet. But it hasn't been a publicly made statement, which would be weird before the movie actually comes out. But they haven't made a statement saying Ezra Miller's dropped, this movie's canceled.
Yeah,
we're not doing it. Which they did cancel Batgirl.
Yeah, but apparently all of that wasn't due to Brendan Fraser actually burning down like a hospital or something. It was just because apparently the movie was bad.
Yeah.
And tax write-offs, apparently that works.
Yeah, it worked for Uwe Boll when he made all those terrible video game adaptations in the mid-2000s.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Pull out the last one, huh? I don't know.
Disney's having a pretty rough time in general,
Disney.
though. Like Disney's having a situation with majors, specifically Marvel, but also, Bob Iger and DeSantis and their whole relationship in Florida. There's a number of Disney also is pulling things from their streaming service for the first time, like en masse, as opposed to just sort of shuttering things here and there.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? Do you think they should just pull it? Like, is that an actual like thing that you can suffer with? Like, too big of a server to have all these shows? That
I don't know. If you were to look at the library of material from streaming service to streaming service, HBO Max, Netflix, Disney, I don't know if you're going to find a similar amount of parity between each of those things. Like, is it 777 unique entities per server, and then it becomes too big? Is it 50? I mean, probably not 50, but like Disney certainly launched with a pretty mild number of things, a pretty low number of things, and they've ballooned up over time to where they are now from when they started in the pandemic. But they're they're not like a huge library of material.
Not insane.
So
no.
losing stuff seems kind of weird.
Well, especially the stuff that they're choosing, like the Willow show that came out last year.
Yeah.
Like that's barely a year old, and like it's not even being released on like DVD or anything. So like once it's gone, they're literally just pushing people to be a part of the pirate era and go.
Yeah,
pirate their
it
stuff.
could come back again in the future. I mean, deep archiving versus having something available for streaming is a bandwidth issue. It's a server space issue. It's an accessibility issue. But with the same token, if they're going to archive it and then bring it back later, is it going to be like Netflix does that sometimes? But also Netflix does that for reasons of exclusivity and contract negotiations.
Yeah.
Netflix doesn't just put something on their archive and then bring it back every so often because they feel like it's interesting to do that. They sometimes do it because they can only show it for a certain number of months or whatever it is.
Disney did do that in the past though with their DVD release because they had the Disney Vault.
Right.
And then they'd bring like, oh, the Lion King's back outside the Disney Vault for 2 months. Here, come buy our movie. And then we're putting it back. And apparently I remember they did actually, like you couldn't find that movie after that period of time.
Like the physical copy?
Yeah, the physical copy. So it was always
that's
like...
That's an exclusivity thing though, in order to try and generate
profit
for them. If they make the movie more like lucrative for them because it becomes rare, then that's a big deal.
But that's not what they're doing here, even though they technically could if they did do like a DVD release.
Yeah, that's true.
But they are pulling stuff that isn't like financially profitable to them.
Yeah,
in their sense, because like, who's going to buy Willow season 1 when it wasn't that good in the first place?
They
already canceled it.
Yeah, they already canceled it.
But
I don't know. It's like when you make something and you put it out there, even if it isn't received particularly well. It in the case of like a YouTube channel or a smaller streaming service, you can just sort of let it go away, and it's not a big deal because it's not representative of a lot of investment on your side. But on Disney's case, Willow cost them, I think it's like $35 million to make Willow.
Sure.
And the World According to Jeff Goldblum show that he did for 2 seasons, or the Mighty Ducks show, or any of the other ones they use as sort of filler material.
Yeah.
What's the reason they're pulling it away? And the reason I bring that up that way is they're also laying off a lot of people. They're also not opening up this this office in Florida. Like Disney is suffering some financial hits.
They shut down the Star Wars hotel. That wasn't financially viable for some reason.
And also kind of a bad idea.
You can't drop $6,000 on a single night. No,
I can't do that. And if I was, it probably wouldn't be to go to Star Wars.
No, it wouldn't be to Star Wars.
No, it'd be to go to Paris or Scotland or something like that.
I don't know. I think I'd love to see Galaxy's Edge at 6 a.m. That sounds nice. Perfect, just ripe.
Is that when they go to make it like to make the bespoke experience? They go when nobody's in the park, which means they go at dark 30.
I mean, that would. Can you imagine keeping up those resistance like people that are just like in line, just kind of keeping you entertained? Be like, all right, it's 3:30. You better be stepping it up.
Everyone's here for me.
I mean, they.
Oh boy,
that would be so interesting. Honestly, that would be an interesting job just to know the behind the scenes of Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
Huh. Or even like working in that hotel and like how it did function for expensive as it was.
Yeah.
Like how did it go from day to day? Like if you were just like a worker there, like if you were a stormtrooper, I don't know. There
was a lot of interesting concepts in their hotel, just like in their parks. They do a lot of very unique things.
Yeah.
The hotel I understand had, no windows. It was meant to be very evocative of the experience. The windows were all they showed a projection of space outside because you're supposed to be on a ship.
Sure.
So there wasn't any windows that showed the actual exterior of the building that was the actual thing.
Right, because this is the ship from one of the Star Wars books that they recently released.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it was from Star Wars Princess and the Scoundrel.
There you go.
Princess Leia and Han apparently go on a ship. It's a cruise ship, and apparently it's the same one that you can do at Galaxy's Edge.
There you go. Well, you could have done it.
Could have done. Well, isn't it closing in September?
I don't know. Maybe you have time.
All right.
If you have a lot of money to burn,
it's time to drop that $6,000 now, baby. It's time. Been saving up.
Go talk to your banker, and then go to a galaxy far, far away for a weekend.
Okay, be honest with me. Do you have a banker?
No,
I don't have a banker.
No.
They cost too much money.
They cost too much money.
I'm trying to save up for this trip.
Yeah.
I can't do it right now. I can't afford a banker.
Speaking of Star Wars. We did a video recently on the channel about Mace Windu.
Oh yeah.
That was very interesting. I did
Yeah.
not know that when you brought that to my attention. I mean, I've seen Star Wars stuff, but I haven't really read Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, so it came out in like October and I recently found out about it. So
Yeah.
again, it was just so under the radar, but essentially, yeah, Star Wars Visions, they bring back Mace Windu in a interesting way
Sure.
as far as visions go.
Yeah.
But that's the first time like Disney has been like, yeah, Mace Windu is back in a certain way.
From a certain point of view.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It could be the tease to see if there is a flame there to bring Mace Windu back.
Yeah.
At this point, I think it would have to be a movie if we were really going to do something like that.
Yeah.
I think they showed that like a TV show with Obi-Wan, they can just be padded out too much to make it feel a little too extended.
The Obi-Wan TV show would have made a great movie, but a TV show,
Weirdly enough, didn't work as much.
yeah, it didn't work as much.
The padding actually made it feel like, because if you really just cut down the Obi-Wan TV show to a movie, it's pretty much there.
Yeah,
like, everything you
pretty
need.
good. Yeah.
But there's just too much, like it's too much filler.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if the Mace Windu effect would
I think
be the
that's been
same.
Disney's MO for a little while, though, is when they first started Disney streaming, they wanted to give themselves a library of material. And part of that means shows, mean longer subscription times, mean people are subscribed to the thing, for months at a time as opposed to days at a time to just binge watch something and then jettison or whatever.
Which I think they're really starting to figure out the rhythm with it now.
Yeah.
I think that's why they also extended Daredevil's TV show to 12 episodes to make it feel more TV show-esque instead of more miniseries movie kind of feel.
Interesting.
So I'm curious on where that's going to go in the future, where these other like Star Wars shows are going to be season-wise.
Speaking of Daredevil, did you hear the news recently about Echo?
No, what happened with Echo?
So Kevin Feige, according to the internet, which take this with a heavy grain of salt, according to the internet,
the internet's never lied to me, man.
It's never lied. No,
we're best friends.
We're best friends. The internet has said that Kevin Feige was unpleased with Echo's current script and trajectory. He said it was unwatchable.
Interesting.
That's got those quote marks around it, which means surely it's taken verbatim from something Kevin Feige said. So they kind of went back to the drawing board. It seems like there's going to be some reshoots.
Okay.
Maybe some modified material. Who knows? But we've heard similar rumblings from Mahershala Ali with Blade, where the original script for Blade wasn't apparently very good.
Is it unwatchable as well?
I guess.
Can't watch it?
I guess.
Well, I can't watch it either.
I can't watch it either. Yeah, they're
Wow.
not going to release it.
Well, no crap, it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
Come on, Kevin.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, honestly, like if anything with Marvel, like every Marvel project that has been released, especially with that dump that happened last year, where it just felt like every Marvel project was every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Everything to me was watchable.
Yeah.
Like it was a solid, at least like a 7 out of 10 production wise, whereas
Sure.
like everything landed great. Everything like looked pretty much good. She-Hulk was a little iffy at times, but like
I like She-Hulk a lot.
but the CG
That
was,
CG was rough. The
at
CG was rough.
times,
Yeah.
but like for the most part, like everything did still land as like a show or a movie, because that's like where Marvel always like performs at. They're always performing at like a 7. Like
and a 7's pretty good.
7
all things
is
being equal.
as far as like just movies in general go, but like that. But Marvel's also at the tippy top, and so like
it's true.
They can't perform under a 7 because that's what got them to the top of the first place.
Yeah, is a 7 for Marvel is like a 5 for everyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly how it is. Because if the Eternals came out and it wasn't a Marvel movie and it was just like a existential like super
weird mythology type thing,
yeah, then maybe it could have stood a little bit higher than Marvel because of that. But since it was Marvel, already has that pedestal on it.
Yeah, the comparative quality was not very favorable or not very generous to Eternals.
Yeah,
and that's going to be a problem. People talk about Marvel fatigue or superhero fatigue, and I think a big part of that is similar storytelling conventions, and that's one thing. But like, as time goes on, we're going to keep comparing some of these movies to Avengers Endgame or Iron Man 1 or Winter Soldier or Guardians
3.
Yeah, Guardians 3. And so if that happens, anything that fails to break that top area of like Thor Ragnarok is going to end up being Thor Love and Thunder. And that is even though Thor Love and Thunder is watchable, the comparison makes it feel like a more bitter betrayal of quality. It's not a fair statement to make because Thor: Love and Thunder is better than many other superhero films that have come out, both in the past and from other studios.
Yeah.
But it's not good by Marvel standards.
Okay.
And so it feels like it's extra bad.
Okay. So then let me ask you this one.
Sure.
So it seems like, according to the internets, that like Guardians 3 was received well. Everyone liked it. Everyone thought it was pretty good. It was a
Right.
solid movie. But I mean, as far as like on paper, doesn't do anything really too different as far as like cookie cutter superhero film goes.
True.
So then why did it do better than every other? Like, why is this being...
We also have a video about Guardians.
Do we now?
Do we now?
Ah.
Guardians is a good series.
It
and
is.
It's not just because they're superheroes or space mutants or whatever you want to call them. It's because Guardians characters are uniquely amongst most pseudo mythological superhero type franchises.
Yeah.
Emotional. They feel like we do, and they worry about things, and they fail, and they try, and they feel like people next to us, not people 1,000 yards in front of us.
Yeah, which is weird because a lot of Marvel characters don't feel like that. And I think that's really important. And I think that's why the Guardians movies, or even 3 in general, stood out more than Ant-Man 3, or it stood out more than Shazam 2.
Yeah.
I had to think about that one. But yeah, Shazam 2, that was the other one that came
I get you. I mean, I can see a scene in my mind that's totally fictitious of Cap dying in Avengers Endgame and Tony being sad about it. But I don't know that Downey Jr. would have made the acting choice, or that the Russos or that Feige would have let him weep like
Star-Lord did?
like ugly cry over Cap dying. But when Pete is losing himself over Rocket,
he's losing it.
That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
That's actually
because
a good point.
that's how we would feel when somebody important to us dies.
Yeah,
we would lose our composure.
Even when Cap was crying in Endgame, like he was driving a motorcycle, looking out in the distance. He was crying. Yeah. He looked cool. He looks good.
He's cool crying. He's hero crying.
God, he was so cool when he was crying. Remember that time he was crying? God, he was cool.
And this is one of the reasons why Peter, I'm talking about Parker, is also so good.
I'm so happy you clarified.
Because Tom Holland, when he plays Peter Parker, he plays him like a person.
He ugly cried in that movie.
In No Way Home, he ugly cried, and you feel such deep emotional resonance.
He looked so ugly while crying.
It looks so ugly.
Oh,
he's a handsome man.
I know,
and
so it shows a lot.
That's what I mean, though. Like, not all your characters need to do that.
Yeah.
That's why those moments are so good, because you get characters that can and should. And then you get characters that don't, that they feel above that. They feel impenetrable. They feel sort of immutable. I don't necessarily need Captain America to weep bitter tears when something happens. I liked the way that he tried to convert Bucky out of his mental programming. He tried to appeal to him in an emotional way, sure, but he tried to appeal to him through being his friend, not shouting and weeping and being bitter.
Yeah.
And it just means that Guardians sometimes gets a little special leg up because we empathize with them a lot.
Yeah.
They have a lot of pathos.
I do want it to be where like it is like a good threshold if they can ugly cry. And if they can ugly cry, you've made it.
Yeah.
You're able to go to that range.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, that actually made me think about it. None of the original like 6 Avengers, I've never seen him like that. I've never seen him like Thor, never seen him to like that level. Like even when Loki died one of those times, like never has he been like that. Nor with like Iron Man or even like Hulk or Black Widow. Like any of the, like that was my biggest problem with Black Widow. I could never see the emotion through her performance, which I know like she can bring it, but just in that character couldn't see it.
They're inscrutable in their sort of like hidden emotional depth. Like you know that it's probably there because they're somewhat human.
Yeah.
But they present as being larger than life. They present as being hyper competent. They present as being masters of any situation they're put into in order to be able, like the scene with Cap on top of the police car in the first Avengers film. Like he orders all the cops to do something and let them believe it. And as soon as he demonstrates that he can disassemble these Chitauri guys effortlessly, they're like, okay, well,
all right,
this is the guy we're gonna fall behind.
Yeah.
And a person that's a rally point, like a person that's a leader like that is not Peter
Parker.
Quill.
Okay.
Quill's a great character, but Quill is not Steve.
He's not a leader?
He's not a leader like that.
No, he's not. He's not a leader anymore either. So
No, that's true too.
Yeah.
Now he's gonna mow the lawn.
well, he's gonna be good at it too.
Yeah, he's gonna be good at it.
Yeah. Do you think Rocket Raccoon now has that kind of mentality?
I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious to see. I definitely think the Rocket Raccoon character went through an amazing character arc in those films.
Yeah.
And I want to see where they take the character in the future, assuming they're willing to continue on without Gunn with these characters, because I think he's got a lot of depth. That's one of the reasons why this character has been enduring in popular culture for so long.
Yeah,
Rocket is a great character.
He is. He's a cool one. I think that's why it was so like heavy when everyone was coming into this film, because they're really heavily Rocket's gonna be out of this one.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, personally, if I had to choose any of the Guardians, I'd be most upset about, it would be Rocket.
It would be Rocket.
It would be. So
the emotional center of the films. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the one with the most unresolved storylines too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a Les Gamora in Guardians 3 as well.
There was Les Gamora in Guardians 3. Well, I mean, her character, like as we just mentioned, had been sort of played out at that point.
Yeah.
She was in her sort of like swan song, and it didn't feel right ending the trilogy without Zoe Saldana or Gamora in it.
Which makes sense, but yeah, I would be pretty okay if we never saw Gamora again.
I don't think she's of service anymore to the story.
No, because like she's not even. They even made her like less likable now. Because like this Gamora now, it's like I don't really like the last one. Yeah, like I would have been fine with her, but like, now I don't really care to see you.
Yeah,
you do fit with the Ravagers more.
Exactly.
So it fits.
Man, speaking of the Ravagers, what a missed opportunity for some of those guys.
Yeah, they didn't really come back to this one.
It's too bad. I mean, it's too bad because they teed up what could have been a really cool team to show up for that heroic moment of like the Ravagers are here to sort of pay off that emotional, debt or whatever. They got Stallone, they got Michael Rosenbaum, they got, I mean, they didn't have Michelle Yeoh or, Ving Rhames and stuff, but like they had a bunch of the characters and some very cool old Guardians from like way antiquity.
Oh yeah.
That are sort of like, remixed for the cinematic universe.
This is a segue, and this is a perfect segue.
Sure.
Do you know who cameoed in Fast 10?
No.
So, like, have you seen Hobbs and Shaw?
Yeah.
All right. So the cameos in that movie with Kevin Hart and Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
How it's just like dumb, and it's like, okay, like they're not characters, they're actors, and they're playing actors. They're playing themselves.
Right.
Well, they did it again with one of the biggest names in Hollywood right now, Pete Davidson.
Oh.
Sure. I guess. Oh man, I can't.
Davidson was also in Guardians 3.
He was. That was my segue. That's where the connection was.
I picked up what you were putting down.
I forgot. Yeah, because he's in like a helmet of some sort.
Yeah. You can't blink and you miss it. Yeah.
That guy must be like a chill dude to hang out with.
I guess.
I can't hear anybody that doesn't like him besides maybe Kanye West. But
sure. Yeah.
That's okay, because I don't really want to be on his liked list because it seems very limited. But I don't know. I think it's interesting that like movies do that. Like, how do you feel about like, do you have any preference one way or another where it's like, oh yeah, Daniel Craig was in that Stormtrooper mask? Like, does that give you any significance?
I don't know. I like cameos. I think cameos can be fun.
Is that a cameo?
Like, well, it's a vocal cameo.
Maybe.
I mean, it's very minor. I think cameos are fun when the character isn't chewing scenery and sort of hamming it up.
Sure.
Which is the opposite of what we're talking about with Ryan Reynolds or Kevin Hart. Like, they're there to play.
Yeah.
Because they're in a movie with their friend. And that's fine. But by the same token, if it's a cameo, you almost want it to be like that kind of a moment, as opposed to, there's a great cameo in one of the Star Trek films where Star Trek 6, I think it was, Christian Slater's in it.
Okay.
Which you think would, like, that's kind of crazy, right? This movie came out in like, I don't know, 1990 something.
Yeah.
And Christian Slater is sort of covered in shadow a little bit. He's kind of standing there talking to Sulu from outside of a doorway. You can barely see his face because he's sort of covered in shadow. And he's telling Sulu about something. And that's it. That's the entire scene. He doesn't ham it up, doesn't like use a Christian Slater catchphrase or do any kind of thing that you would be like, oh, that's Christian Slater. But he's still in it. And if you know, you know.
Okay.
And that's a fun cameo for me, because I like to sort of feel like I'm in on the other side of the gate a little bit and go, oh, that was this actor or that actor or whatever in this thing, as opposed to them doing their signature thing.
Okay.
Like if Will Ferrell were to show up in Star Trek and then say something really goofy, and you'd be like, okay, so he's just playing Will Ferrell in Star Trek.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but then there's like a line because that
Sure.
line is to where it's like the post-credit scene and it's The Rock, and you're like, oh my God, Dwayne Johnson's back because him and Vin Diesel like apparently like fought, and one of them hit him with a wrench and they won, and now they're back.
I mean, can you
so
imagine?
Like, where's the line?
Can you imagine a universe in which Ryan Reynolds cameoed, and instead of playing Hobbs' best friend agent guy with like a weird sunny disposition and all the Ryan Reynolds isms that he's sort of known for, instead was just sort of like a short order cook that like handed bacon and eggs to Hobbs and also passed him a password for something,
do you know how
or whatever.
Funny that would be, though? It'd
be subtle, and Ryan Reynolds are not usually in the same sentence together.
Wouldn't it be funny if he was just like Ryan Reynolds was just the guy that like held open a door and that's it? Yeah, that would be so funny.
That's what I'm talking about.
That'd be so much more funny because you're like, wait a second, what's that? And that's it.
What? Yeah,
that's
because he did the same cameo. Ryan Reynolds did the same cameo in Hobbs and Shaw, not literally the same character, but the same type of personality in Ghosted, the Chris Evans and Ana de Armas movie.
Oh yeah,
same kind of character, like being Ryan Reynolds essentially in a film with his buddies.
I was watching an episode of 30 Rock, and it was an episode where like they just had an extra and they needed an extra.
Sure.
And it was an extra at the time, but that extra was Donald Glover.
There you go.
But it wasn't Donald Glover at the time.
Sure.
So it was the funniest cameo watching it 10 years later. And be like, is that Donald Glover?
Yeah.
And it was.
That's pretty good.
That was a perfect cameo in that way. And so I hope they kind of implement stuff like that in the future.
Speaking of Donald Glover, there's a great opportunity for sort of what we're talking about. And it actually have both of these in the same episode. So there's an episode of Community that has Jack Black in it.
Yeah.
Doing a cameo-ish. He's sort of playing like a guest part.
Yeah.
As somebody wants to join the study group, but then at the very end of the episode,
it's Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson's in it, and he has like one line essentially.
Hey, buddy, we just had to pick you. Come on,
and that's it. And,
Look at
then
him.
Boom, you're out. And it's a blink and you miss it moment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
you just named my favorite like TV show of all time. So
yeah,
yes.
Community's fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
Nailed it.
Well, from emotional highs to emotional lows, it's been kind of a roller coaster.
Yeah,
but
speaking of nailed it, I think we nailed this podcast.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
We do have a little bit of somber news to bring up, though.
Oh yeah,
Ray Stevenson passed away.
What the heck? That came out of nowhere.
I know,
which is so strange because it seemed like he was really hitting the peak of his career.
Yeah,
especially with Ahsoka. So
Lance Reddick, Ray Stevenson. We're losing some pretty great character actors and people that were reaching this level of like nerd fame that was becoming very iconic.
Yeah,
and it's really too bad.
Which is a bummer. I hope they're able to get all of his scenes figured out for Ahsoka so he can go out on a high.
It sounds like he was able to film everything for Ahsoka, so I'm going to be very eagerly waiting to watch that show. I like Ray Stevenson. I liked him in Punisher. I liked him as Volstagg from The Warriors 3. I liked him in a lot of the movies. He's had a very, very long career. And so we're pretty sad that he passed away.
So hopefully they can do him justice in those last parts he's in.
But on that note, thank you for watching. And that's the end of this first episode of The Office Hour.
The podcast that we have a name for.
Yeah.
That one.
Kind of.
Yeah, let's figure it out. Okay.
See ya.
Cool.